because she, I think, becomes so central as a personality, as an actress, and as an image to 10,000 Ways.
Well, of course, one of the reasons why I got to work with Maggie Chong is connected to a person sitting here in this room, Ruby Rich, who had been in quite a long discussion, I think, with Maggie Chong about my work over the years. And so when I actually wanted to work with her, it was in a way fairly kind of a pincer movement between Tilda Swinton and Ruby Rich. And when I met Maggie at Claridge's in London, she knew about my work, and although she'd retired from working in the cinema, decided that she'd work on this project. And subsequently she's in my newest work, Playtime, as well, that's shown at Metro Pictures. And I think with Maggie, she was someone who's very much gravitating towards the art world. She's actually now involved in making installations of her own and music projects and art projects. She's building a studio in Hong Kong and I think in a way one of the things that's been very interesting about making work is the different collaborations. Because one of the things I think that happened in making 10,000 Waves, certainly in China, is that I think they were very fascinated with the idea of making a 9-screen work and being involved in making a sort of cinema that's very different from the ones which they're involved in ordinarily. And one was able to muster all of that kind of energy and excitement, I think, in making the piece as well.
So one of the things that's so striking here is that at least my previous viewings of 10,000 Waves has been that essentially the screens have always existed on the same plane. And here you've adapted to the atrium and begun to stretch them out into different altitudes, as it were. And how do you think that affects the way we read the story?
Well, I think the thing that's marvellous about being able to install a work here in the atrium is that when we're editing the work, we're editing with a computer program that shows the work simultaneously as you're editing the different screens. But we tend to edit actually both vertically and horizontally across the space. And so when we're able to work with it vertically, in a way, it brings out some of the kind of editing montage sequences or scenarios that we want to map out in the narrative in this way for the first time. And so it's been really very exciting to be able to install the work with this verticality and to emphasize that as a kind of way of being able to view the piece. Because when we're editing the work, we're in fact looking at the work through all these different sort of dimensions in a sculptural sense. And so I think it's the kind of sculpturalness of the work which is getting emphasized, and the fact that you can watch it from different floors and experience it in these different manners. And of course this brings us very much connected to our computer programs to a certain degree, where we're able with a mouse to sort of also simulate that way of looking as well. And so I think that's very exciting.
This project is accompanied by what is effectively an artist's book. It's quite a substantial publication that we're releasing that you worked on, Riot. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the Riot publication really grew out from the fact that there's already a 10,000 Ways monograph which I had produced with my studio and Victoria Gallery and Metro Pictures. But we thought it would be interesting to work on a publication nonetheless. And when I suggested the theme of the more visual autobiography type catalogue to David Frankel, who is someone who I've known for over 20 years, he sort of jumped at the opportunity. But I think also in the Riot publication, which spans 30 years, there's a conversation between many colleagues, including Ruby Rich, and people like Stuart Hall, writers like Julien Bruno, Paul Bureau, and Mark Nash, my partner, who basically is someone who's always been in conversation with my work over the years. And I think in this publication we're able to bring this together because there's a way in which I think research and the archive and ideas which are connected to making works are very much usually kind of not foregrounded in my practice, and so making the right book gave me the perfect opportunity to be able to bring all of these different aspects together, and working with my studio from Archive, and working with all the studio members who are here today, like John Bloomfield, who's at the back here. He's a very young, intelligent man, and really, it's really the combination of all of these things that one's able to bring out this sort of collaboration in the right book. And it was very exciting to delve into one's archive and to bring out some of those photographs that maybe you might not want anyone to see, but nonetheless you kind of will have to be part of the kind of story, so to speak, if you're going to adhere to certain narrative about what you think is important in terms of documenting sort of these different relationships and practices in history.
So David Frankel, if you don't know, is one of our unsung heroes, although he should be a loudly sung hero here at the museum. He works in publications, he's a senior editor, and he's just one of those individuals who has the ability to know when a great text is being produced and when a great book is being produced, and has been essential to so many of our great publications. I don't know if David is here, but if he is, he should wave his hand so those of you who don't know him can see him. One of the things that always struck me and is so powerful about this piece, Isaac, is it tells a story of a tragedy, and yet the tragedy itself is almost absent from the story. It's really almost like a pre-narrative. How did you envision, what to you is the essence, the core of the story you're telling?
Well, I think the main sort of question in terms of making a work like 10,000 Ways is really how to make a piece of work which is not doing the same thing that news might do or a documentary might do, where basically you have the facts and figures and you have all of the sort of political sort of angles, so to speak, of that tragedy and why that took place. And what I want to do is really to dig a bit deeper than that, and it took about 2 to 3 years to find the Mazu myth, the tale of Yishin Island, and to basically tell the tragedy from her point of view. Of course, Maggie Chong agreed to play that role, and Mazu, who is the goddess of the sea, who originated from the Fujian province, but is prayed to all around this region of the world, Southeast Asia, I think is a symbol really of the person who brings the lost souls back to Yellow Earth, but then at the same time her powers are waning. In the fable, she rescues the fisherman and brings him to this place of safety, which is called Yishin Island. And I felt that my experience of being in China and the way that the kind of modernity and the kind of fast modernity that's been achieved in China, there's a certain sacrifice, I guess, of some of these aspects of a culture. At the same time, it's a culture which is deeply embedded in those traditions. And I thought it would be interesting to make a work that could look at this tragedy from Mazu's point of view rather than my own point of view, and to marry that with a certain search for culture, a search for identity, and loss. So I see this work as a kind of form of reparation. In the news, it's about information, technology, and speed. But I think in art, you want to have the space to reflect on that. And so I thought maybe trying to reflect it in this manner might be another way of viewing these questions, which tend to get viewed in these very tight political sort of ways.
Let me turn it over to all of you now.